Thank you so much for letting us chat today. We appreciate your time. You obviously have so much going on, which we will very much get into, but maybe just to start, we know each other obviously from Allen's, and you were a partner there for a very long time, and you left there to become obviously chair here at the AEMC. Are you able to just give a bit of an insight into what made you leave and why you've made that decision?
Sure. Thanks, Jess. And it's really fun to be talking to you. So thanks for inviting me on. So yeah, I did spend a really long time at Allen's. One of the things that I always managed to do there, though, was to learn new things,
Yeah.
because that's like one of my driving forces. I just have a really strong need almost to keep
Yes.
learning new stuff.
Yeah.
And I managed to do a lot of that at Allen's. So I kind of learned a lot about, being a good lawyer, and then
Yeah.
I had a lot of opportunities to do more leadership roles there,
Yeah.
which I really loved.
Yes.
I was, fortunate to work on lots of kind of groundbreaking regulatory
Yeah.
projects and deals and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But I started to run out of runway. I thought the limit of what I could
Yeah.
do that was new at Allen's.
Yes.
And then it took me a little while to work out, well, what do I do next?
Yeah.
And lots of talking to people and trying a few different things through interview processes,
Yeah.
etc. And it just felt like this job was serendipitous almost. It felt like it came together. So many of my kind of unique, quirky skills
Yes.
suited this really well.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to kind of move into from the advisory role, which is awesome because you get to
Yeah.
work with lots of clients and help lots of different people, but you always get kind of one step removed from the actual action.
You're not in the thick of the
Yes,
decision
yeah.
necessarily.
And so that shift
Yeah.
to being actually someone who was making a different kind of contribution by
Yeah.
really kind of taking on that responsibility really appealed to me.
Yeah.
And
And how have you found being in the arena? Because as you say, I even as a baby lawyer, I remember going, oh, that's so interesting, but send the memo and
yeah.
I wonder what happened and maybe I'll hear in a year's time. Now you're in the absolute thick of probably so much change that maybe you couldn't have even anticipated at the time.
I just have loved it. Like
Yeah.
it's really amazing opportunity. One thing is that there are so many people in the arena with you.
Yes.
So it's not really like being alone. Like
Yeah.
I have, my commissioners, and then I have our whole
Yeah.
team, and then we work with stakeholders extensively. So you're swimming generally in the same direction and trying to get good outcomes. So it's that the part about making difficult decisions actually is the not as hard a what I thought that would be. The change.
Interesting.
Yeah,
We'll
the
get
interesting
into that.
shift from private sector to public sector.
Yeah.
Quite fascinating. Just the
Yeah.
kind of the different drivers and the different way of getting things done and what you can get done.
How you.
Yeah. One of the ways I kind of try and talk about it is that in private sector, you can achieve things like at some pace.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people think it's frustrating and slow, etc., but there's actually an outcome that you can get to.
Yeah.
But your systemic impact is not as large. Whereas in public sector, what I found is it's much more murky,
Interesting.
really hard work to kind of like make progress. But then when you get an outcome, it's got
outsized. Yeah, absolutely. And I really want to get into that. One of the things that you've sort of spoken about, and I think you've even internalized through the value setting process here recently, is this idea that we must actually do hard things, and that almost needs to be our DNA. For some people, that is the thrill and that's the joy. For others, obviously, it's really difficult to sort of say, look ahead, this is what we have to navigate, this is where we need to get to. How have you gone about, I guess, establishing that as a culture and leading through that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So that's the kind of the beauty of the time we're in from my perspective. And I take your point that not everyone feels that way about that kind of challenge. But it kind of like everything that we do now is hard.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not everything, but so many big challenging issues that have not been considered anywhere in the world before. Like there's really many places where Australia is world leading. And so to try and navigate through that degree of uncertainty, you have to be prepared to stick your head above the parapet. And I think we took quite a deliberate decision when we were working on our new values.
Yes.
That's what we wanted to do. Like when I first joined, we had a bit of recovery that we wanted to do in terms of just reestablishing our position and our authority and our credibility. But we felt we'd done that really well, and that set us up to really take the next step.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me in that our values were built up from the ground. And this is what our team came up with.
Wanted to say, which is really interesting.
Yeah, which is, I think, speaks to the kind of people who want to be involved in the sector at the moment. And it has become like a really attractive place that amazing people want to come and work in
100%.
because there's this kind of incredible opportunity to make a contribution. And then I think just that recognition, and there's a bit around your leadership by osmosis that's very, very me. Like I feel like all of the values that we defined in this most recent work on values spoke to me so personally, but they didn't come from me. They came from the staff, from the ground up. But what I like to think is that's because I've been leading and we've been leading that way for a number of years now.
Yeah. How does it translate? So Australia is in a very much market-leading place, and we are grappling with so many things that other countries haven't written a playbook for. When you get into the nitty-gritty of some of those technical decisions, you don't just pop up on a leadership level. You're sort of popping up on rules. This is how we do things. There's so many technical changes that are coming. How do you go about I guess making some of those big decisions through that lens of we do hard things. We can't know everything about this decision at this point in time. There is this uncertainty, but here are the tactical things we do in that process to have confidence.
Yeah, and there's probably some...
So when you actually are making these really hard decisions, what does that look like when you don't have all the information sitting in front of you?
So there's a few different ways that we think about it, given that it's effectively our bread and butter. It's making decisions about the unknown. There's the collecting as much information as you can. So, and all the thinking and theory that can go into how you think about it from a principled perspective. There's, traditional decision making under uncertainty. Think about different scenarios, like what if this happens, what if that happens, what if that happens, how do different things play out. One of the really important parts of our process is our stakeholder engagement.
Yes.
And so it's a compulsory part of our process under our legislation, but we would do it anyway because stakeholders know so much that we don't know.
Yes.
And then you get lots of different ways of thinking about a problem. So you get so well informed by what everybody else is thinking about the future.
100%.
And then one of the really kind of paradoxical things that we find sometimes, not all the time, is actually more incremental decisions can be better. So it kind of feels like because we're going through this massive change that each decision we make should be some huge leap forward. But that's, of course, carries so much more risk when you're doing that in uncertainty. Whereas if you take a step towards a future that you may envisage, it gives you a little bit more confidence and comfort that you're not kind of closing off options or doing things that are not unwindable if you need to. So there's also that kind of like, not caution, but sensible risk based way of thinking about what you want to do next.
Balancing that piece. And it feels like this is really applicable to what a lot of organizations are going through at the moment, because you have all of these changes, we know theoretically I can transform everything we're doing, or we might have these mandates to review everything about our process. And I guess sometimes from a leadership perspective, you kind of do have a lot of information, but maybe you don't know necessarily how to put yourself in the shoes of the people that are going through this process or live it every day. And it's almost like you have to do this required consultation process in this formal approach because of who you are. But it's almost like that's so valuable. Even other organizations could be thinking about, what is your internal consultation process here?
I think so. It's really interesting. So when I was at Allen's, one of the roles I had, of course, was leading our innovation strategy there. And so we do one of those tours of Silicon Valley, which is really so eye-opening when you're just a law firm partner.
Corporate world. And
but, just that little kind of like things that tech companies would do, like putting your software engineers in the call center.
Yes.
So they're the people who hear directly from the customers about what's going on. Whatever techniques you can use to get the lived experience of the people 100%. That you're creating for. So, one of the things that we've been invited to do recently is go with some of the ombudsmen who host Bring Your Bill days. And so people who don't understand their bills or have concerns about their bills, the ombudsmen in different jurisdictions set up community days where they will engage with customers on that basis. And
Yeah.
so they said to us, why don't you come? Because then
See.
you can see and feel
Feel it.
what that's like, and
Yeah.
that can help with what you're thinking about. You've got some great visions for the future of what you'd like it to be like for
100%.
customers, but
Is that
understanding what
actually
customers from,
Yeah.
different customer cohorts, we call them sometimes,
Yeah.
really want and really understand and appreciate.
And there's so many different ideas and there's so many different opportunities on how we could add value to that end customer, or whether that's external or internal in an agency, for example. And then you have this really hard task to go of the whole thing, world of things that we could do. Where do we get biggest bang for buck,
Yes. Yeah.
basically? And we might have our pet projects or things that we think are going to be so influential. And then you go and sit inside an organization for a week and go, oh, for me, yes, but actually not going to solve their biggest hair on fire problem. Have you found that sort of prioritization piece through that stakeholder engagement having a significant impact?
I think what we learn more about is how people experience the impact of things that we're thinking of doing. So
Yeah.
that helps us on any particular project think about the different options that we have for directions we like to go with. We'd like to also do that because we'd like to head towards this kind of market or this kind of outcome.
Yeah.
It just gives you some reality checks.
Yes. Reality checks
yes.
as you make these incremental
Yes.
choices of what is the actual effect
Yeah.
here. One of the things that I think a lot of organizations are talking about at the moment is, in this world where AI can support so much of various aspects of decision making, one thing that it can't do is bring lived experience. If someone leaves that has all of this knowledge, all of that walks out the door with them. And so the real complementary piece of making decisions in this AI enabled world, obviously, is getting that human input and that lived experience and that really rich, this is what happened, this is what we learned, let's apply it. But in my experience, that isn't always the most mature process in most organizations. How do you think about that and the value of that? And if you've put anything in place to get the most from that?
Yes, so this is an area that we also struggle with, funnily enough. So we have had in the past processes where at the end of select projects, we do a project post review and we say what went well and what went badly, and we have a great conversation about it. And then we go, oh, what are we going to do with this information next?
Yes.
And we don't have a systemic way of capturing it and working out what to do with it next.
100%.
What I found worked better was actually the discipline of doing a 3-year strategic or 3-year corporate plan.
Yep.
And then we also have, again, some requirements on us actually to do regular stakeholder surveys on our performance.
Yes.
And that is actually quite a good discipline because it does make you then stop and look at yourself and say, this is what stakeholders are seeing about us. And then of our own decision, we also do the same thing internally. So we want to understand from our staff what we're doing well and what we're not doing so well to support them doing their best work. And so I found, funnily enough, some of those bigger strategic pieces, if you make sure that you do them with a degree of discipline, and then you're prepared to see, hold up the mirror and see what it's telling you,
100%.
you can then actually use that as your learning to what you want to do next. And so when I started here, we did quite a significant corporate strategic plan. And I was really surprised at how we were able to achieve the things that we set out to achieve because we kept them small. We kept them 6 priority projects.
Interesting.
These are the things that we want to do. These are our 3 key objectives. And we were able to make a difference to the way we're going about our work and the culture of the organisation through following that, quite traditional structured process, which is kind of interesting.
For sure, because I think a lot of the time people are now looking at what's this bold new way that we need to do things. But if anything, in a world where you're expecting agents and people to collaborate and execute, it almost comes back to that core piece on who are we? What are our objectives here? What is our strategy? Because if that's not universally understood by the people and the agents we're in and we're talking about, then it is very hard to get a check on whether you've actually done the thing well.
To do.
Yeah. For an organization with this amount of complexity and I guess just so many different things that need to be considered under probably just one small objective, how did you find the process of communicating that piece of work to the people that may not have been in the room as it was developed? Obviously, you would have town hall style events and communicate it in those ways, but has there been anything else you've found that really gets the people you want feeling responsible and having autonomy for execution, deeply understanding it?
So I do think that having those people involved in the creation is a really critical element. But as you said, not everyone can be there at the time. And so, but then there's for new people coming in, and we, do have quite high turnover. We're a small, flat organisation.
Yeah.
But I do find that if it's embedded sufficiently well, then the staff kind of like re-embed it in their people
In their day to day. Yes.
I think leadership's really important. So going back to the commentary that I made before about the values, when I first started, when we did this first corporate plan, which had these, objectives and priorities that I thought were really effective, the one thing that was really interesting to me at the time is that we did the build-up of values.
Yeah.
And they weren't that far removed from the previous set of values. And they, to me, were not quite probably where I would have put them, but I felt it was really important that they were owned by the staff.
Yeah, 100%.
And then it was through the process of executing on the corporate plan and pursuing the culture that we wanted and leading with that in mind that I think all led to the next time we came back to it, having these values which reflected what we had been doing, but it still came from the staff.
Yeah. And I think as well in this time where everyone largely has a mandate, whether that's from a board or whether that's from a regulatory perspective, to think about how do we redesign work? How do we show up here? What is this world we're going to be in? People's roles are changing, expectations on how AI is changing workflows or just processes are so dramatic. It's almost like this is a great opportunity, even if it doesn't fit your perfect cycle right now, but to say, look, these things are going to change. We almost want you to be the architects of how. Come back in, do the process and give people that sense of control through that, noting that there is so much outside of their control. But if you're the architects of what this next period is going to play out, I feel like that brings a sense of calm in a way.
Yes. And the other thing that we found more recently has been quite effective. We have a new CEO joined us in August last year, and this has been a particular trait of his, which I really enjoy, is creating that experiment mentality.
Yes.
And it kind of helps you move more quickly because you don't need to do the same amount of work that you do to make a permanent change to some process. You go, for the next 6 months, we're going to do this way, and then we'll reassess it. And so everyone's like, okay, let's see how that goes.
Yes.
And there's just
almost this permission that, okay, it may not work. That's fine.
Yeah. And let's give it enough time to see if it does work. But if it doesn't, that's fine. We're not stuck with it forever. And that helps us more quickly try out new ways of doing things. That's a really important part of what we're doing because we literally get more work than we are able to complete, and it's just accelerating. And so we have to keep reassessing how do we get through our work in the most valuable way to support the energy transition. And
I think we're a small organisation, but we've seen this internally as well, where if you have someone that just feels like the success of this new idea they've proposed or this new way of going about their work is sitting on their shoulders. Like, you popped your head up, you said this could be a different way to do things. It's on you if this doesn't work. Obviously, most people then don't put their hand up, but then it just does really weigh on people, and perhaps they go about it in a more conservative approach than you want. How do you go about just, I guess, influencing people's mindset to go, no, we're not just corporate speak saying fail fast. We legitimately need you to be trying these new systems, software, workflows, approaches. We need you to do that to keep up with how things are changing. And we genuinely need you to be okay with this not being a waste of time 6 months later.
Yep. Probably that's another area that's a work in progress. So one of our other values that we built is own your part, and a part of that is decluttering.
Yes.
So as a process-driven organisation, where our statutory process is incredibly important to how we go about doing our external work.
Of course.
That does then feed back into try and have a lot of streamlining and a lot of standardisation. And people are very conscious of what decisions sit with them and what decisions sit with someone else. So that's one of our new challenges is to build that level of trust, I guess, almost people's trust in themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
That, no, that's okay. We delegated that decision to you. We
Yeah.
really want you to make it. You
Yeah.
don't need to check that with the person above you or the person above them.
100%.
And
100%.
building in the protections. Okay, we're going to check on this every 6 months to see how it's going.
Yes. So it's not all on them.
Yes. Yeah. So it's kind of finding those safe boundaries, I guess, that then people feel a bit more, okay, I'm going to give this a go because I've been asked to, I've been given permission to, and I've given safety.
This is our normal process and here's who owns what. But even at a layer below that, when you're trying to innovate and look at different approaches within a team, it's like, we need you to feel comfortable that you actually have the autonomy to do that. But it makes me think too, one thing you said before around, knowing what we are trying to achieve here. It's almost like, okay, a new piece of software or a new redefined workflow here may work, but almost the objective of you doing this is not just, we expect you to save 8 hours a week in this process and improve productivity. It's like, we expect you to report back at these intervals what's failing. And that's almost the key purpose of you going through this as well.
We want to learn something from this.
Yeah. And
a lot of projects here called ways of working.
Yes.
I kind of be clear about what are the objectives of this particular initiative.
Yeah.
And how does it fit into the bigger picture and not overlap with these 3 other things that are going on at the same time. It's really important. So that there's the joy in kind of like the little experiments and they give people autonomy. But if you don't have a good framework that it's operating in, then you can get people kind of spinning wheels that are not valuable, and that's not helpful either because everyone's really busy and
spinning wheels, relearning lessons we didn't need to learn. And obviously that becomes demotivating too, because you kind of come back up to someone senior and they say, why didn't you talk to John? John discovered this 6 months ago. This was a stupid idea. Maybe they don't deliver it in that way, but you do risk that demotivation to actually do that because you thought you were being super innovative, but in fact, it's a path we've tried before. I think the whole leading people through this time and trying to embed that innovative mindset is almost the key to leveraging all these things we're talking about as huge AI opportunities, basically, at its core.
Yeah.
So interesting. One of the things that nearly every leader, whether it's a government department, universities, listed entities, everyone will say, we are flying the plane while we're still building the plane. For your team and your organization, obviously there's a real truth in that, as you say. There's no playbook, but where does that sit for you in terms of a concept, and how do you actually think about this playing out? How do you manage that?
Yeah, we use that phrase as well about this whole sector, is that we're flying an existing plane. We have to swap out the engine, but we can't lose altitude at all because somebody will notice. It's the kind of change that you seek to pursue in extreme uncertainty. Like, we're not starting greenfield. Like, we have an existing system and it's got to keep operating because that's what people expect of it.
Exactly.
So you can think broadly and creatively about what you'd like to achieve. And I think that's actually really important, is like start with what you want to get to, but then be realistic about where you are now.
Respect the boundaries of what are not going to move as well.
Constraints that you have to operate under.
Exactly.
And so within those constraints, how can you then move somewhat towards your nirvana ideal?
It's a bit like a heritage restoration. We love the Federation Home. We love the glass box as well. But how do we do that? Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of team members at the moment might be losing sleep over the fact that the plane, the engine is being changed midair, and some leaders are really excited about the fact that that's happening. It's a once in a generation opportunity to change things in a way that maybe we haven't before. How do you sort of balance that, I guess, in your mind as well, that level of uncertainty? We really do not know what good is going to look like, but can you just sort of take us through your mindset and maybe something that maybe you do differently now than what you might have done a year ago, just with where technology is changing?
So I think that one of the things that's important is different perspectives, and sometimes people can take that to mean, particularly in our context, it's good to have the economics perspective and it's good to have the engineering perspective, it's good to have the legal perspective, but we also tend to have these inbuilt almost. So, as you know, I'm a very glass half full person.
Yes.
And I'm a very, yes, let's do that person. And I get very excited about new ideas. And so that is both a positive, but then can
Yes.
be quite risky. And so some of the things that I've done in the past that have been called brave maybe wasn't such a good decision. And then I had to kind of recover from being a little bit too brave.
Yeah.
And so working with someone who has more of the a different tendency, which might be to be cautious.
Yes.
To say, well, actually, we need to think of all of these risks before we can take that step.
100%.
And so having a respectful way of coming together.
Yeah.
So not one is not right and one is not wrong.
Yeah. Balance each other though.
Yes. And being able to not rely on people to do that for you because that's not their job, but rely on the fact that you've got a group dynamic.
Yes.
Or you've got enough kind of different ways of thinking about a problem
100%.
that you can get to something. We've got these different kind of people within this particular decision-making group. If we can get that group comfortable with X, it's probably a good balance.
It's why it has to become, I think, decision-making just so much more collaborative than what it has been in the past because of exactly that. And I think IT teams are copying it a bit at the moment where they're saying, look, you really shouldn't have an IT department dictating your AI strategy. They're not part of the use cases that you're trying to resolve for. They're the people that have a bias to say, well, we need to absolutely minimize risk. So the criticism would be we're shutting things down too early because we don't understand the application. But the opposite is also true where people like you and I who are like, yes, and we've said yes 30 times and then realize, there's some other things that we now have to do with those yeses. And it's kind of, instead of framing especially in this AI transition, instead of framing some people as like the villain of innovation here or the slowdown, so they should be working hand in hand. Don't put one in a meeting alone, basically.
No, exactly, because that's what helps you calibrate where are the risks here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also I think it's the point of like going almost back to the values conversation. Like these are the people who have to live with and work on the decision that you're going to implement. So there is also that value of people buying into something because they've been consulted and they've been heard.
Yeah.
And, maybe you didn't take on their views entirely because it was, you tempered it with this other thing that you really wanted to achieve. But the importance of listening to people and having them feel listened to, I think goes a very long way
100%.
when you then try and actually get the things done.
100%. Yesterday we had a team meeting and we had just we'd just come to this agreement with an organisation. We were going to do this big piece of work. I'm like, yay, how fantastic. This is going to be so exciting, everyone. And everyone's just kind of on the Zoom call. Why are you all looking depressed? I mean, this is fabulous news. This is so exciting. What's wrong? We're the people now implementing that and we're catching up with your joy for now. But it's absolutely the same point of people have a very legitimate reason for how they approach some of this stuff. And being,
I hope you have a good party for them when they've got a bit done too and they are feeling joyful because they've managed to deliver this amazing vision.
We have actually been very bad at celebrating milestones, but I actually think that is another big thing too. Especially now, you always feel like you're behind. You always feel like if you're living on LinkedIn that someone knows something about what's coming that you don't, and everything is like, we're trying to keep up. And you don't really take the time to go, oh, well, for our organization, we've just actually unlocked something really interesting, or that was a great pilot, that was a great trial, we redefined this and it's had this great effect. You've kind of got to give people a time for a sugar hit. It's like, be joyful. Okay, move on to the next. Where's our next source of joy coming from? I'm very bad at that. Now, a lot of government organisations are being pushed to innovate and they are being asked to move really quickly. And to your point, there are so many different views on that. But what do you think that perhaps government as a beast often gets wrong about what it is to innovate and move quickly?
I think so I was thinking about the challenges of any large incumbent successful organisation to innovating is almost your own success.
Yes.
Like I've been doing this way for a long time. I don't want to jeopardise that. And there's a lot at stake. And you kind of apply that to government. It's amplified.
For sure.
There's a lot at stake.
Yeah.
And there's a huge amount of history in how things are done and why they're done a particular way.
100%.
So I think it's important to be respectful. So you may all have an idea of what you think good looks like, but it might be different.
Yes.
And that's, I have also observed, was a bit easier to reconcile in the private sector than in the public sector, where there's such a broad range of things that government's trying to do that people working in government might interpret in different ways, being what success looks like. So I think there's a few complications around that. Having said that, it's obviously not impossible by any stretch of the imagination to innovate in government and finding the same kind of things that we've been talking about, like the small, safe experiments that give you confidence to be able to then expand it, I think is probably something that's out of the way of thinking, because they are used to thinking more systemically about big projects that you've got to research to the nth degree to get it right and then make one big step.
Totally.
So a kind of a change in approach to, this experiment idea that I talked about before is like, we're just going to try it this way for 6 months. And of course, if you're doing something with technology, it's got to be more to it than the small, safe experiments. I think is a really good place to start.
Just get one under your belt and go, oh, like
look
that,
at that.
look at that.
The world didn't fall over.
Exactly.
Particularly one that you do and you go, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah.
I've learned something helpful there.
100%.
So that's almost a better experiment than one we go, oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah,
right.
Now we've got to scale this thing. 100%. And I think it is a big mindset shift. It's almost like, look, we know this isn't how we ordinarily do things. And so just that mindset to go, okay, make sure it's safe, make sure it's contained, consult the right people, but small pilots that give you as a leader, I guess, the confidence to understand, like, here's the opportunity. If you're not exposed to that, it's a very difficult thing to push through the rest of the organization as a mindset.
And being prepared to spend a little because the option value that it buys you is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Certainly, from my own lived experience of working with you, your approach to innovation and being so across what's coming around the corner has been so obviously. So the consequence, though, if you're not of that nature and you're not keeping up and you're not excited about what's coming and you're perhaps more in that gatekeeping piece, what would you say that the consequence of that is? What is your advice?
Okay. There's a couple of things I want to say. One was, I was so touched that you said that I was inspiring, because I think of all of the things I've done in my whole career, the thing that I'm most proud of is inspiring young lawyers.
I can tell you are very successful at that.
Particularly young women. So, the second thing is that I always used to joke when I was head of innovation at Allens, I was not head of technology.
So
you don't have to be good at it to appreciate that it can be very valuable. I had a 1-hour masterclass from one of our senior data analysts to understand modelling and machine learning, just to scrape the surface so that I could get enough to go, I got all these kind of good aha moments about why people were saying this and why people were saying that.
Yeah.
So I think it's the being curious without thinking that you have to know everything. You don't have to know everything. You've got other people who can know things for you.
Exactly.
It's the being open to exploring or having these things explored and being comfortable that you'll be able to put in place the right frameworks to make decisions once.
And let people run.
There's, different styles of leadership will suit different organisations and different times. And going back to I serendipitously find myself here at this exact point in history with my particular quirky collection of skills, and having leaders who are passionate and open is almost, I reckon that's more important than having leaders who understand the technology.
100%.
There might be other parts of the economy that just need to keep going. Just you guys be stable. Just keep doing what you're doing because we really need you. And so you might want different leadership in those organisations. And it's just having that kind of match for what is needed at that time.
Exactly. So helpful. You've been so generous with time, and I think a lot of people will get a lot from this conversation. So thank you, Anna.
I hope so. It's been really fun. Thanks.